Okay. Can everybody hear me? Can we hear me? Okay. I think my headset is bad. Can we hear me? Good evening, everyone. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Trust our day went well. Okay, so let's just give 3 more minutes for more people to join in. 3 more minutes and let's give 3 more minutes and then we'll get started. So by 7:05, we'll be starting. Righty. Happiness. I'm very fine. I'm much better now. I think it was only happiness I knew that I was not really feeling fine. Thank you, Happy. I'm better now. Um, I'm smiling, Abby. You can see that I'm smiling. Can you see my video? Oh yeah, I'm not seeing my video again. I'm smiling now. Um, Good evening, Tina. Okay, so we have 2 more minutes to wait. Today is going to be um today is going to be a jam-packed class, so to say. So we'll try to move as fast as possible. And I also want to try that we are able to do a demo before the end of the class. So everything together this evening. Okay, so I have 1 more minute. 1 more minute to wait. One more minute. 1 more minute. Hmm. Okay. It should be a countdown already now. We have just 18 people. Okay, 21 people watching now. Good evening, Ijima. Christophane. Good evening, Miracle. Arizichuko. That name looks like this is the first time I'm seeing it here. Grace, good evening. Okay, so it's 7:05 on the dot. Are we ready to get started? Okay, so Miracle, thank you very much, Terry. Yeah, so um today is going to be the last class for the week. Let's just put that out there now. Today will be the last class for the week. So today we are going to be taking what we are supposed to take today and tomorrow together. So that's why I said this evening's class is going to be quite jam packed. And what I'll try to do is cover the basics for everything and then put as much additional resources as possible in our slides so that uh, we can read up right while we're not having class tomorrow. So this evening is our last class for this week. For this week. So after this class, the next time we'll be meeting will be on Monday. On Monday, basically. All right. So let's get started. I don't know if Mr. Moses mentioned on Monday, but just in case he mentioned, this will be a reinforcement. And in case he did not mention, this would be passing the information across. So we'll be marking some of the assignments that we submitted there. That's the documents you uploaded. And I'm glad a lot of people attempted it. But there's something that's caught my attention. And for those that we've marked already, you see some of my comments that was passed through your submission. So I noticed that quite a lot of us are doing copy and paste from the internet, and I was not so happy. Reason being, the main reason for the assignment, right, is not just to mark attendance, so to say. It's not just to show that you are in this class. It's basically to test our understanding. And there's nothing wrong in getting it missing questions, right? Because when you miss something, then you get corrected, and then you know it, and you know it. But I noticed that a lot of us are just copying and pasting from the internet. I've seen people that answered in their own words, and um, I'm happy for those people. So this is me saying this. Whatever the assignment will give you, especially when it's probably would involve you writing or something, right? Try as much as possible to write it in your words, in the way you understand it, as best as possible. That way, when you see it in exam, you are not lost because you already have an understanding of the concept. Maybe in like the last week, we'll do some what do they call them now? Mock exam questions, AWS Cloud Practitioner mock exam questions. So you see how AWS sets their exam questions. For you to be able to pass AWS, you have to understand the concept. So it's not just a copy and pasting. So I'm begging us, please, going forward, whatever the assignment, try to read up on the resources and understand the concept that is there, and put the answer down in your own words. That way, you are able to prove that you understand. That's the first thing. And then answering in your own word will also solidify what you've understood, because then you'll be putting it down, and then your brain will register it. So that's our first course of action for this evening. Let's get into today's class. Thank you very much. All right, so this week, Mr. Moses started on Monday, we are dealing with monitoring and logging in AWS, monitoring and logging. And he already took us part of the services for the AWS uses for monitoring and logging. And can anybody remind me what Mr. Moses taught us on Monday? What was, which service did he teach us about on Monday? CloudWatch. All right. Thank you very much, Tina and Ayola Kendi. Yeah. Thank you. So yes, Mr. Moses talked us on Amazon CloudWatch. Miracle. Nice. Yes, so Amazon CloudWatch. Okay, so today we'll be looking at other services, and just follow along. I might be rushing through. Like I said, we want to finish by 9, but we have a lot of things to cover, or quite a number of things. All right, so basically, I like to start, from, let's understand what monitoring and logging is, right? So, what is monitoring and logging? So, monitoring is like the word, right? All of us know what monitoring. When you say you're monitoring something, right? You're basically keeping an eye on that thing, right? You're keeping an eye on it. So, monitoring in AWS is basically keeping an eye on your AWS environment, checking that everything is running smoothly, right? And then logging. Now, this is where the difference comes in. Logging is now keeping a record of that thing that you are monitoring, right? Logging is keeping a record of that thing that you're monitoring. So, if we're using a shop, for example, right, a supermarket, uh, they are probably monitoring customers that are coming in, right? Ah, excuse me. A big supermarket to monitor customers that are coming in, right? They have uh, a camera that is monitoring people coming in and people going out, right? But I mean, if there's no way that they're storing those records, let's say, for example, if somebody, thank you very much, Happy, thank you. Let's say, for example, if someone comes to steal something in the shop, right? Maybe the week before, and then the boss is looking for it, and they can't find it. They can't find it, and they are beginning to accuse the store manager of stealing or something, right? They have to go back to go and check the record, the logs of those camera for that particular day. That's when they will now say that, oh, it was not the store manager that stole it, right? It is a customer that came in and stole it. So logging is basically keeping a record of what you are monitoring. If you are not logging, if you are not keeping logs, then it means that you are monitoring but you don't have a record. Oh god, oh, I've not been sneezing since morning though. Why am I sneezing now? The devil is a liar. uh okay, give me 2 seconds. Okay, okay, let's get back into it. Thank you very much, Atinuke. Thank you. Thank you. I thought this kata was gone. Okay, I need to scale up my fruit. I know Mr. Moses told me the same thing. I've just been a stubborn. They're monitoring me in the cloud. Happiness, so good. Oh. Okay, all right. Flyme, all right. Noted. Thank you very much. I'll take note of that. Okay, so let's get back into it. All right, let's get back into our class. So I was saying that logging is basically keeping a record of what you are monitoring. So monitoring is basically useless if you are not keeping a record of it, right? Because if you are monitoring something, right, and you don't have where you're keeping a record of it, when you need it, you might not be able to go back to it, basically. So that's the difference between monitoring and logging. So monitoring is keeping an eye on something, and then logging is keeping a record of what you are monitoring, right? Uh, I mean, we have a lot of doctors in the house. All right. So why is it important to monitor and to log, right? It helps you to maintain system efficiency, to ensure compliance, to be able to detect when something is wrong, right? And for troubleshooting issues, basically. Then what are AWS monitoring and logging services? We have CloudWatch, CloudTrail, Config, and Trusted Advisor, and X-Ray. But this week we are going to be talking majorly on four of them. CloudWatch, which Mr. Moses has already taken us on Monday. CloudTrail, Config, and Trusted Advisor we'll be looking at today. Majorly, I'll be majorly on Cloudtrail. I'll be doing a demo of Cloudtrail if time permits us. All right, so AWS Cloudtrail. What is AWS Cloudtrail? It's a tool that records all actions, or in a much more cloud computing terms, API calls. So for everything that you do in the cloud, you are signing in, you are starting an EC2 instance, you are deleting an EC2 instance, you are creating an IAM user, you are deleting an S3 bucket, deleting an S3 bucket, you are uploading files into an S3 bucket, you are using Lambda, whatever it is you are doing, they are all called API, right? You are doing what you are doing is API calls, right? Because you are using an interface to communicate, basically. You are communicating and getting a response. So they are called APIs, API calls, basically. So CloudTrail is what monitors API calls. Now, if you remember from what Mr. Moses taught us on Monday, CloudWatch is used to monitor resources performance, right? So that's why you use it to with your EC2 to monitor utilization and all the likes, right? So CloudWatch is used to monitor the performance of your resources. Now, CloudTrail is used to monitor every action that is carried out in AWS, every action, be it by a user or by a service. Let's say, for example, if I go into AWS, I'm a user, right? And I created another user. Maybe I created happiness as a user in the AWS account. That's an action. AWS, the Cloudtrail is going to do it, is going to record it, right? If I launched an EC2 instance, the Cloudtrail is going to record that I launched an EC2 instance. If the EC2 instance communicates with S3 bucket, maybe it needs to upload data from S3 bucket, right? Or download data from S3 bucket. The Cloudtrail is going to record that this EC2 instance, this particular EC2 instance uploaded data into this particular S3 bucket. So whatever the action is, Cloudtrail monitors it, right? Now, what are the features of Cloudtrail? You have Cloudtrail event history, you have Cloud Trail, and then you have Cloud Trail logs, right? So we'll be looking at what each of those features means. So Cloud Trail event history, what does that mean? Sorry, pardon my voice. Oh, you people can still hear me. Please, can you still hear me? Hope my voice has not affected the way we're hearing me. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Happy. Thank you. All right, so let's get on with it. So CloudTrail event history. So it's a feature of CloudTrail. And what the event history is, just like the name implies, right, is basically an history of what is done. So event history is a short step. Please take note of this. It is a short step free view of the last 90 days of API activity in your AWS account. Right. Now, this feature is available without having to create a trail. We're going to go into Cloud Trail, right? So now, this one basically what it means is once you create an AWS account, right, AWS automatically starts monitoring the events in the account, right? Now, there are different events that are monitored in AWS. We're going to see that in Cloud Trail, right? There's management events, there's data events, there's insights events, right? Now, for management events are basically things that have to do with you creating resources or changing resources, like maybe you created an EC2 instance or you deleted an EC2 instance, any of those things, right? AWS automatically monitors those things once you create your account. So, an event history is a feature of AWS CloudTrail that gives you a 90 days view of the management events that has been happening in your account, right? You don't have to create a special trail to monitor those events. Once you create an account by default, right, in that particular region, an AWS event history is created. So if today that you created the account, right, all you did was you created an admin user, it's going to write it that you created an admin user, right? If you created an EC2 instance, it's going to create it that you created an EC2 instance. But you have to note that this event history is giving you only a 90 days view. So which means if you've created the account since 90 days ago, right? And today is the 91st day, right? It's only going to show you what the event of the last 90 days, right? So anything after 90 days, you won't be able to see it again in the event history. If you want to see it, you have to pay for it. So one, event history is view, is a free view of the last 90 days activities in your AWS account. And one of the features of it is that you don't have to create a Cloud Trail. You don't have to create a Cloud Trail. You can access it directly from the Cloud Trail console. We're going to, when we are doing a demo, we'll look see all those things, right? Um, Another feature is that it is limited, again, like I mentioned, it's limited to 90 days. So it is only used for recent activities. If you created your account now in January, you'll not be able to, if you go to event history, you will not be able to see the activities, management activities that were done on the account since January. It's only showing the ones of the last 90 days, right? So let's say that last 90 days will probably be event of since maybe July, right, till now. Okay, so another feature is that it has featured filtered access, right? So you can filter the event by the time range, the source of the event, the user or the event name, right? We'll see those things in demo. Then the type of events. Remember, I mentioned that there are three type of events that are monitored in CloudTrail. We'll see that for CloudTrail. So there's management event, there's data event, and there's insights event. Now, for an event history, it only captures management events, right? Like you're creating a resource, deleting a resource, modifying the resource, etc. Right? So it does not capture data events. Data events is like somebody assessing this particular uh what are they calling it now, file that you uploaded in S3, right? Those are data events. It doesn't capture all of those things. Then for cost, it is free for 90 days, but it does not have a long-term storage option, right? So use case is used for quick short-term investigation. You want to do a very quick um within 90 days investigation on your AWS account. Then you can just use the CloudTrail event history. Now, this is a picture of what a screenshot of what the event history looks like, right? To tell you the event name, right? Event time, the username, the name of the person that did it, the source of the event, right? The resource type, etc. So this now, you see this person, this event here that is what delete user. So it means that this user here, the person that is here, right, deleted the user. This was the time that the person deleted the user. This is the day that the person deleted the user. Which resource did the person use? AWS IAM user, right? So different things basically, but all of this view cannot be more than 90 days, right? So anything you do between 90 days will be captured here under this event history. Now let's go to Cloudtrail. What is Cloudtrail? So Cloudtrail is what you set up to be able to capture a record of your AWS account activities. Now is also like an event history, but it is much more long term and it is much more granular. It contains more details, right? So it captures the record of your AWS account activities, and it delivers and stores those things that it has captured, right? Those things are called logs. So for everything you do, it logs them, right? Remember, I said log is keeping a record. So it captures those logs and it saves those logs in S3, or you can decide to save it somewhere else. But primarily, it is saved in an S3 bucket. So you have to create an S3 bucket that the Cloudtrail will be saving those trail logs, right? Now, you can create a trail for a single account, right? That means it's going to capture for a specific account in a region, and you can do multi account, so in different across all regions, right? So those are some of the features of Cloudtrail. Now, what are the events that can be monitored by Cloudtrail? It can monitor management events, right? Management events will involve changes in resources, right? Like you're creating or you're deleting or you're modifying something in your resources. It will it captures that, right? It can also monitor data events. So data events is like access to data, right, in your AWS service, like your Lambda, like somebody reading the files that you upload in S3, right? When we say reading, is like you're checking the files that you have uploaded in S3, right? So those kind of things are data events, and they are monitored by Trail as well. Then insights events. So event is basically a trail that you create to monitor unusual activities in your account. Let's say, for example, suspicious logins. Maybe somebody is trying to log into your account, or maybe it's even you that are trying to log in and then you forgot your password, right? It's going to monitor those events, because those events is going to give you an insight. Let's say, for example, somebody tried to log into your account and was trying the password. They tried the password like 5 different times, right? It will tell you that this thing is an unusual activity, it's suspicious. It's looking like someone that is not supposed to have access to your account is trying to access your account. So it would record those things. So insights events are events that will give you an insight into what is happening, right? Maybe like unusual activities, suspicious, or too much API calls, right? That's excessive API calls. So those are the events that Cloudtrail monitors. Now, a Cloudtrail, like we said, is what it captures a record. Now that record is what is called a log. So that is going to Cloudtrail logs now. Hope I'm not too fast though. Follow you said 24, 72, or 8 hours disappearing clock on WhatsApp. Yeah, something like that. It's just that this one is fixed. It's 90 days. It's 90 days disappearing. So you can't set it. It's set to 90 days. It cannot be reset to more than 90 days. Okay, all right. So I can move on. Okay, so Cloudtrail logs, right? Cloudtrail log is one of the features of Cloudtrail, right? Because it is keeping a log. In short, everything that Cloudtrail does is what's keeping a log of a record of activities, right? So now Cloudtrail logs are detailed long-term records of your AWS API calls, right, across your account. It is stored in an S3 bucket, right, when you create a Cloudtrail trail. So when you create a trail, right, whatever the records, which is the logs, now whatever log is being created, if, for example, I created a trail to say I want this trail to be monitoring to monitor management events like your creation of EC2 instance, creation of S3 bucket, deleting it, and all of those things, right? That's what I created this trail for. So that particular trail now is going to be monitoring all of those events. And then whatever it monitors, it will be sending it to the S3 bucket that you created for it. So if you want to see those logs, you have to go to the S3 bucket that you created for it. Unlike event history that you can just see it on the Cloudtrail console, right? For logs, you have to go to the S3 bucket that you created for it when you were creating that particular trail. So what Cloudtrail logs will show you is who, what, when, and where, right? It will show you who made the API call, what did the person do, right? When did it happen, and where did it happen. Now, where did it happen is down to the details of what your IP address. Down to the details of your IP address is going to put it. So that's why, if for example now you are briefing somebody, maybe you are briefing somebody in your office, and you now say that this person is for me, everybody like this person is for me, bado bado bado. So village people now push you, you now want to do the person, you now decide that this person that created a particular S3 bucket to save company data, because you have access to it, right? Maybe they don't put proper security on the bucket, so you have access to it. You now go and delete the bucket, thinking that nobody will catch you. My sister in the Lord, just except that they did not know before 90 days, because event history will catch it, or they did not create a trail for it. Once a trail is created for it, it's going to tell them, the person that did it. If you like that, oh, it's not me, maybe somebody used my system to go and access it, or somebody used my password to log in and go and delete it, it's going to tell them the IP address of where that action came from. So they'll come and check the IP address of your laptop or wherever it is, right? And they can pinpoint that this is you. So there's no way you can run, right? So that is basically, that's why say that Cloudtrail is basically your audits and governance and compliance tool, right? It helps you to monitor to the last detail who or what is doing what, and what the person is doing, and where the person is doing it from, right? So there's no running. Now, you can also filter your Cloudtrail logs, right? You can filter by event name, you can filter by the user. So filter by event name is basically, you have a amount of log for today, and you only want to see the logs that is related to instances that was started, right? So you can just search by run instances, right? So it will show you all the events that happened, every instance that was started that day, who started it, what did the person do, the person start the instance or did they start, all of those things, right? So you can filter by event name, you can filter by user, right? Let's say, for example, you are in an organization, you are the head of the department, and you're having issues with this person. Maybe you feel like this person is not doing the work, and the person, oh, I did it. Maybe it's AWS that is having issue. Maybe they said that help us to create this particular what are they calling it now, S3 bucket. I say I created it. I don't know how it deleted from the AWS console. AWS was having issue. AWS is one that deleted it. No problem. They will not fight you. So what your guy will do is you just come to the Cloudtrail, and because it does not want to go and start looking through the logs one by one, it can just filter to say, give me, the logs for this particular user. You just put your username there, and the AWS Cloudtrail logs will show him all the logs for your own that is limited to your own, and they will see whether at any point in time, you created the S3 bucket or not. So which is also a good thing, because you can also filter by time range. So if you say, oh, I created it last week, maybe AWS deleted it. If you had created it at any point, there will be a record of it. So they can also filter by the time and put a time range to say, okay, between last week Monday and last week Friday, let us check what did this particular user do, right? And you can also filter by resources. You can filter because the logs would it's going to put all of the logs together, irrespective of the service, the user. Once you create a Cloudtrail, right? All the logs will be recorded as long as it's under that account. It's going to capture everything. So you can always narrow it down when you want to see the logs pertaining to something or to someone or to a particular resource. You can always filter. All right. So, what are the key features of Cloudtrail logs? Right. Number one is you can create a log, you can create a trail rather to log events across one or multiple regions, right? You can always create a trail to monitor and to record events in one AWS region or more than one AWS region. And you can store them because it is being stored in S3 buckets, right? It is much more long term. So it's not like the event history that is deleted after 90 days. If you create a cloud trail, right, in January, that log is going to be there except somebody goes to go and delete the log, right? Delete the trail rather. Say you cannot delete the log, you can delete the trail, right? You can say that, oh, I don't want to monitor this thing again and go and delete it, right? But even at those things, there are strict measures to who can do that, right? If you are a systems administrator, you have to restrict access to who can delete trail, who can create trail, and all those things, right? So that your employees or your colleagues will not buy you, right? So it's much more long term because it is sitting in S3 bucket, right? Except you delete the S3 bucket as well, but you might not even be able to delete the S3 bucket until you delete the trail that you created. So the logs are stored indefinitely, or if you want, maybe you are in a organization, right, where, because for these cloud trail logs, unlike event history that is free, right, since it's just giving you events for 90 days, this is going to cost you money. You're going to be charged for what you're storing in S3, right? You're going to be charged for the amount of data that is being stored into S3. You're going to be charged for any time you want to query the data, right? Because you can always query the data to get insight from it. So you're going to be charged for that. Now, because you can be charged for that, right? Some organizations always put a retention period to say, okay, what we'll do is once this event is more than a year old, delete it, right? So as to reduce their cost, right? So they're not just keeping data, but if you don't set a time period, it is stored in your S3 bucket for as long as S3 exists. All right, so granularity, right? It provides very detailed information, like much more detailed than event history, right? It's going to include your request parameters. I would have shown us a picture of it, but it comes in a JSON format, and the one I wanted to copy and put here is bigger than this screen space. It's longer, rather not wider. It's longer, so you might not have been able to see it properly. But I'll show you an example of it when we want to do a demo, right? So it provides more details, like I said, as tiny as which IP address the request is coming from, right? What the response of your request was, is going to capture it. If, for example, you created a user, right? What was the request parameters? Which group did you add the person to? It's going to capture all of those information. So it is very, very granular. A cloud trail log is very granular. Then the type of event, you can log any type of event, right? You can log management events, you can log data events and insight events, right? If you enable it. Then cost. I already mentioned that cost is associated with creating trails, right? And storing the logs. So you are built for storing logs in the S3. You are built for whenever you want to query those logs, maybe using Athena, right? Or uh, using Cloudtrail Lake. Cloudtrail Lake is uh, for deeper. Let's say, for example, you've created logs now for, you've been using AWS for 5, 10 years, right? And so it has generated logs for that long. And something happens and you need to generate insights. Maybe you need to see the amount of times your employees are using so services. You need to generate insight from it. You can use a Cloudtrail lake you just use SQL to basically query uh, the log, right, and get your insight from it. So a Cloudtrail log is ideal for your long-term auditing, your compliance, and advanced security monitoring. Because I mean, the logs are stored indefinitely, except you set a time that you want it to be deleted, right? So aside that, it is long term. It's not like the event history that whether you like it or not, 90 days ago, you are not seeing the history again. Starts You can't see beyond 90 days basically for an event history. Okay, so do we get Cloudtrail? Is everybody is everybody good? Can we move on to the next one? I'm going to be rushing this because I want us to do a demo of Cloudtrail tonight. All right, thank you very much. So let's move on to AWS config. AWS config. Anywhere you hear AWS config, right, just think about configurations. Just think about configurations because that is what is the business of AWS config. So AWS config is the service that will help you to track configuration changes in your AWS environment. So CloudWatch monitors performance of your resources, right? CloudTrail monitors every activity in your resources, right? Every activity, like somebody starting something, somebody deleting something. Now, what config does is that it monitors configuration changes. Let's say, for example, you created an EC2 instance, and when you created the EC2 instance, you created a security group and attach the security group to it. If you remember what our security groups are, right? So let's say when you created this EC2 instance, your rule was that allow HTTPS traffic, right, from anywhere. That was the rule that you put as your inbound rule. So maybe down the line, you now saw that what I want to put on this EC2 instance is quite sensitive. I don't want just anybody from anywhere to come and be accessing what is sitting in my EC2 instance. So you now want to restrict the access. You now change the security group that instead of allow HTTP access, right, from anywhere, you now want to change it to allow HTTPS from specific um, IPs, right, from a specific IP. What you can do is when you've changed that security group, what AWS config will do is to monitor that change. So to tell you on the 20th of September, you created a security group. This was the security group rule. Now, on the 2nd of October, you've changed the security group. So this was the first rule, this was the second rule. So you're going to monitor what the changes are in your configurations. If, for example, you created an S3 bucket and the first time you are creating it, you made it publicly accessible, then later you changed it, or you decided that I want to change the configuration that to be that instead of keeping the files forever, every file that has not been accessed in 20 days, delete them or move them to archive, right? You've changed the configuration of that S3 bucket. So it's going to monitor all of those configurations, right? And why is it important? It's because it helps you to maintain compliance. It helps you to check if your resources are aligned with best practices or security policies, right? It can help you to monitor all of these things. Sorry, excuse me. Let's say, for example, right, if you created an EC2 instance, you've created security group, and then you change the security group. Somebody is now complaining that, sorry, we can no longer access your um, instance. You are now confused that, how come? What happened? Maybe one of your colleagues has mistakenly gone to go and check the security group. You can always go to your AWS config and to show you what the previous security group rule was, what it is now. And this does not apply to security group alone, right? Any of your uh, whatever it is that you configure in AWS environment, AWS config monitors it. So its own is to monitor configuration changes, right? So it gives you a detailed history of the configuration of that particular resource, right? So it helps you to maintain compliance, and it helps you to track your configurations, right? It will automatically track the changes to your AWS resources. So if Sade created the security group and said allow HTTPS uh, access, right, to this EC2 instance from only Sade's laptop IP address, right? That was the rule that Sade put on her security group. And then Fumilayo decided that, well, me, I want to access this EC2 instance, but I don't want them to know. So I'm going to go and change it and put allow HTTP access from anywhere, right? Somebody is now confused that everybody is now accessing the EC2 instance. You can let's go to your AWS config to show you the history, to show you when Shade created the security group, to show you when Fola Shade came to change the security group, and what were the changes that she made on the security group. So you can always revert back to the original. You can always make changes as you want, right? Then also it allows for compliance monitoring. If there is a rule in your office, right, that maybe, for example, databases are not supposed to be publicly accessible. That's the rule, that's the policy of your company, that it is publicly accessible. And when we say database should not be publicly accessible, it means they're not supposed to have access to it, right? So they should not be sitting in a public subnet, so to say. These configurations, you can monitor them to check that at no time are you missing out of this. Yeah, are you trespassing or going out of the policy of the company, right? So config will help you to monitor that every of your configuration is in line with your company's policy. Then it can also help you with security auditing, right? So you can identify configurations that would leave your environment vulnerable. Say, for example, creating a security group that says allow HTTP or HTTPS access from anywhere. It means any Tom, Dick, and Harry, right, can access your EC2 instance as long as they have the IP address of your EC2 instance, right, which can leave your environment vulnerable, isn't it? So you can always use config to check what are the configurations I have in place, which ones are the ones that are going to make me vulnerable, right? So that's what the AWS config does. So what are the capabilities of AWS config, right? Resource inventory and history. So it will provide you with a detailed inventory of your AWS resources across your account. So every resource that you have created, you've created S3, you've created EC2 instance, you've created Lambda, you've created IAM user, whatever resource, it will give you a detailed inventory of all the resource that you have in your AWS account that you have ever created, right? In your AWS account to give you a detailed inventory, then to give you the history of the configurations of those resources, right, over time, to give you the history. So January you created the C2 instance, right? say in February you decided that you wanted to add another security group to the EC2 instance. In March, you decided that you wanted to add another network interface to the EC2 instance. All of these things, right? Those are the things that it does. So it will give you inventory of your resources and the history of those resources, the configurations that of those resources, basically. Then compliance auditing, it automatically helps you to assess your compliance, right, with custom rules. So there's something called config rules. So you can set your rules to say, in my AWS environment, right, anybody that is creating any database should not be created in a public subnet, right? You can create that rule that I don't want my databases to be created in a public subnet because I don't want anybody to have access to the database over the internet, right? So when you create that rule, what will happen is that AWS config will always check anytime somebody wants to create a database within your account, within your AWS account, it will check that person's creation, right, with what your rule was, to check it with what your rule was, right? And to let you know if the person did the correct thing or not. So you can always also set um you can add it to a CloudWatch alarm to say, okay, when somebody creates that is not in line with this, always notify me. So you're notified when somebody does that, and you can quickly remediate it, right, by changing where the person has created. So you can create a custom rule that AWS config will always assess compliance with, right? It always assess that whatever resource this person wants to create, whatever rule or security group or whatever it is that the person wants to do, is in line with the rule that has been set in place already. And then it does a continuous monitoring of your resource configuration to meet best practices, right, or security requirements. Now, change management is another capability of AWS config. And what does this mean? It will help you to visualize changes, right, through a particular period. So you can, it will give you like a picture of what has changed in your account, in your with your resources over the time period, right? And to help you to also pinpoint configurations that you have made in error. So any if there has been any misconfigurations in the past over time, it will pinpoint it for you, right? Then also it also creates or captures a snapshot of your resource configuration at a specific time, right? So whenever you have created a resource, when you've created a C2 instance, you've added it to a particular security group, right? It will take a snapshot of it, of that configuration, of how the settings of your EC2 instance was, the security group you added to it, what the settings of the security group is, right? It's going to take a snapshot of it and keep it, right? So that snapshot is can be used for your baseline. So it can be that whenever you want to create another one subsequently and you want it to be like that, you can always just get that snapshot to see, okay, this was how I created this was the configuration I used for this thing, right? And then use it to create a new one that is going to be exactly like that if you need to. So those are the capabilities of AWS config. Now, AWS trusted advisor. Can I move on? Do we all understand config? For Layemi that is in love with Cloudtrail. Do we understand config? Can I move on to trusted advisor? Hope you can all still hear me. Oh. Ah, hope I am not talking to myself. Okay. All right. Just like CCTV. Okay. All right. All right. So let's move on then. Sorry, Happy. Sorry. No, there's a slide that's kind of talks about the a comparison of the three, so you can still get brief understanding of everything we've said so far. Right. Okay. So let's move on to trusted advisor. So, like the name implies, right? Trusted advisor is your advisor, right? It's a service that provides real time recommendation, right, to help you to optimize your AWS infrastructure. So AWS Trusted Advisor is that, like the name implies, is that advisor that will look at your AWS environment and give you advice to say, okay, I don't think the way you set up this thing is good enough. I think there's a better way to do it. This is my recommendations. Now you don't have to take the recommendation. It is just an advisor, right? It is an advisor. So it will check your account against AWS best practices, right? So it checks cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, etc. So it is an advisory tool basically. So it monitors your account, your AWS environment, and then it offers advice, right, based on what it has seen. Now, what are the features of trusted advisor? Cost optimization. So these are the categories that AWS Trust Advisors, it's monitors, right? Cost optimization, performance improvement, security, fault tolerance, service limits, and actionable recommendations, right? So cost optimization, the trusted advisor is going to identify maybe you have an idle resources or a resource that you are not utilizing. Let's say, for example, you created an EC2 instance, right? You just created it and you're just testing it and you totally forgot that you created that EC2 instance. So this EC2 instance is not doing anything. A trusted advisor is going to come and tell you that, I've seen that this resources or this EC2 instance, so you created it on so day and you have not been using it, right? So it would advise you, I think maybe you should delete it if you are not using it, or you stop the instance or something. Also, it also identifies underutilized resources. If, for example, what you did was you purchased a reserve a an instance on demand, maybe a 4 vCPU 16 gig RAM, right, of EC2 instance, and then it now says that, CloudWatch monitors our performance, right? So it monitors your utilization. So it now says that CloudWatch is monitoring your utilization. Your utilization is not more than 20%, right? You're only using 20% of that instance, which means you are paying fully for this instance, but you're only using 20%. So it's going to tell you, okay, this instance, you are underutilizing it, you're only using 20% of it. Then it will now recommend things that you can do. Maybe to tell you, okay, why not downsize the instance, or if you are using the instance fully, instead of using on demand, why not use reserved instance? So it does those things for you to be able to do what? Optimize cost, to help you reduce your cost. So that is it, working in a cost optimization, what are they calling it now, aspect, right? So also it's performance improvement. So it will detect when there's a configuration change, right, that can enhance your system performance. So if there's any configuration that you did, right, and might affect your system, right, it's going to tell you, this configuration, let's say for example you are creating a user, right, and you are giving the user ability to do everything, right, it's going to tell you that this thing, no, my advice, so I don't think you should do it like this. Give this user access to what the person would need to work, right? So it gives advice based on those kind of thing configurations to suggest improvements in your compute. Like I said, if you are using a 8 CPU 32 gig RAM instance, right, and it sees that you're not really using it, it can suggest an improvement to say, okay, why not, or maybe you're overusing that particular compute. It can do what, tell you, okay, I recommend using this particular instance type. Maybe it is better fitted for what you are trying to do, or storage or networking resources, whatever it is, right? So it recommends things that will help you to improve the performance of your resources. Then security, it will check for security vulnerabilities, right? It will identify and highlight potential misconfigurations, like giving open access permissions, or you have, we said, the difference between HTTPS and HTTP is that HTTPS has a security certificate, attached to it. If those security certificates has expired, right? Maybe the license for those certificates is expired. It will let you know that, your security certificate has expired though, so it means that your site is no longer secured, so to say. It's now open to hackers can easily, attack your application or your website or whatever it is, right? So it's going to let you know that this is wrong and that you need to change this. So fault tolerance, right? Fault tolerance is basically ability of your resources to be able to withstand downtime, right? So if, for example, you are creating an EC2 instance and you want to put um, a very critical workload on it, right? And you want to put it in just one availability zone, it will advise you to say, I think that you should have a backup for this thing, or set it up in different regions. So that to one region, the other one can begin working and you have lower downtime, right? So it works in that kind of capacity as well. Now, service limits is this. It will help you to monitor your resource limits, right? It will alert you when the service usage approaches. Say, for example, if you've created an EC2 instance, right, of a 4 vCPU, 8 gig RAM, and then on this day, the traffic is so much, you're already hitting the 80%, 90%, right? If you are not, if you, nothing is monitoring it, you might not know, right? You just see that your EC2 instance just crashes because it has gotten to 100%, and then people would start telling you, oh, we cannot access your services, or we cannot do this because your EC2 instance has gotten to maximum um, limit that it can get. So the trusted advisors can help you monitor your resources, right? And to give you advice to say, okay, you're at 80%, or this thing is approaching 80%. What do you want to do? Do you want us to spin off another resource or what? Basically to alert you, right? Based on the service quota that you have set. Then, of course, it gives you actionable recommendations. It will provide a list of things it will suggest that you should do. It gives you a list, not just only relating to cost. Now it can give you a list of everything that it thinks you can do in your environment, whether to improve cost, to improve performance, to make your environment much more fault tolerant, to make it much more secured, and all of those things, right? And to give you a guideline. Apart from giving you a list of what you should do, to also give you a guideline to how you should do those things. So if means maybe it needs you to, is recommending that you purchase a reserved instance, right? It's going to tell you how to, each step you need to take to actually purchase a reserved instance, basically. So that is all on trusted advisor, right? Let's see if we can rush this before our attendance break, so that once we are done, we'll just go into our demo. Okay, so now what is the difference between your CloudWatch, your CloudTrail, AWS config, and trusted advisor? Comparing them, right? Now, in terms of primary function, right? AWS, Amazon CloudWatch rather, monitors the performance of your AWS resources. So CloudWatch is monitoring the performance of your AWS resources, like your EC2 instance, like your Lambda, checking their utilization, checking how they are doing, checking if your storage is almost full, all of those things, right? So CloudWatch is monitoring specifically the performance of your resources. While CloudTrail is logging, right, is monitoring and logging every activity, whatever activity, anything that you do on AWS, user activity, service activity, is monitoring it. You delete something, is monitoring it. You create something, you change something, is monitoring it, right? Now, AWS config, right, its own primary function is to track and to monitor resource configurations. So configurations that you have set, the settings of your resources, right? That is what config is monitoring. That's what config monitors. So it is not monitoring performance, it's monitoring the configuration. CloudWatch monitors performance. Now, trusted advisor, its primary function is to provide you with the best practice, give you best practice recommendation for your environment, right? Now, what are the focus areas? For CloudWatch, focus area is performance and operational monitoring. Focus area for CloudWatch is performance and operational monitoring. While focus area for Cloudtrail is security, auditing, and compliance. For Cloudtrail, it is security. So Cloudtrail is not interested in the performance of your environment, right? It's not nothing concerning it. It's not going to alert you when your EC2 is getting to 80% utilization, all of those things. It will not tell you all of those things, right? So Cloudtrail's business is security, auditing, and compliance, right? While for config, the focus area is tracking and compliance of your um, configurations, of your resource configurations. For trusted advisor, his focus area is cost optimization, performance efficiency, security, and fault tolerance, right? What are the data that they monitor? For CloudWatch, CloudWatch monitors your CPU usage, your memory, your disk space, and request rate. CloudWatch will monitor your CPU usage, your memory, your disk space, right? That's like your EBS or whatever it is you have attached to this instance. It monitors that. It monitors your request rate. While for CloudTrail, it monitors every API calls. Every API calls is monitoring who did what did they do, when did they do it, where did they do it from. That's what your CloudTrail logs does. While for configs, what is monitoring is changes in your configuration. Config is monitoring changes in your resource configuration. While trusted advisor is checking for how can I save cost? Is there any security issue? Is there any performance that can be optimized? Those are the data that it is monitoring, like that is checking for. Now, what is the best use case? Best use case for CloudWatch is to monitor the system health and performance of your resources. Monitor system health. When you want to monitor the health of your resources, right? You use CloudWatch. For CloudTrail, when you want to do auditing, you want to investigate incident, security, whatever compliance issue, you use your CloudTrail. For your config, when you want to ensure that your configuration is meeting the standard, maybe your company standard or industry standard, whatever it is, you use config to make sure that your whatever settings you are putting in your resources is meeting the standard that has been set. Then for trusted advisors is when you want to optimize your environment. That is when you use trusted advisor. When you are looking at it that okay, I think I'm spending too much, right? Use your trusted advisor because to tell you, okay, these are areas where you can cut cost. Or you feel like, oh, I don't think my performance, I'm really optimizing my performance. AWS trusted advisor would assist with that. Now, alerting capabilities, do they alert you, right? For CloudWatch can alert you, right? Because it has CloudWatch alarms, right? So you can set thresholds that say, okay, when my EC2 instance reaches 70% utilization, send me an alarm, right? Now for CloudTrail does not have an alerting capability, but you can integrate it with a CloudWatch alarm, right? You can integrate it with a CloudWatch alarm, or you can integrate it with an SNS, right? A notification system that will alert you to say, okay, so Cloudtrail will monitor, and then you can now connect it to an SNS to say, okay, when Cloudtrail monitors and it sees that somebody deleted an S3 file or an S3 bucket, let it notify me immediately. So whenever the log shows that an S3 bucket has been notified. The other service that the Cloudtrail has been integrated with, which is SNS, right? Can be SNS or can be CloudWatch alarm, right? Would now notify you. But on its own, Cloudtrail does not have an alerting system, but you can integrate it. The same thing for config. It also does not have a native alerting system, but you can also integrate it with AWS alerting services, all right, like your SNS, or you can use CloudWatch alert or alarm, right? For trusted advisors, right? You can get alerts. Can alert you. It can alert you on best practices deviation. Like you are going away from best practices to alert you when you are doing that. Now, for time frame of data, for CloudWatch is measuring real time, right? Real time. So it can be customizable. It can be real time, and it can also measure historical data. So you can check what it was last week or the month before, all of those things, depending on what you set there. For CloudTrail, It can monitor for 90 days, which is if you are using event history, or if indefinitely, if you are using a Cloud Trail, if you create a Cloud Trail, right, which will be storing those logs in AWS S3. For config, right, it's continuous. It's taking continuous configuration snapshots. It takes continuous. There's no time limit for it, right? So it's taking continuous snapshots. While for trusted advisor is giving you real time checks and real time recommendations. Real time. So as at this moment, this is what is seen. This is what is recommended to you. If by tomorrow you change it, it's going to tell you, okay, this is what is seen. If there's a recommendation, it recommends to you. So examples of things that I work with CloudWatch is monitoring your CPU usage of your EC2 instance, right? While for CloudTrail is maybe logging when a user creates or deletes a resource. CloudWatch will not monitor when somebody creates resource. Its own is you have created the resource. How is the resource performing? That's CloudWatch business. For config is maybe you are tracking the changes to an S3 bucket security setting, right? For a trusted advisor, one of the example use cases, advising somebody on an unused EC2 instance. You've created an EC2 instance, but you're not using it, but they're charging you for it. So it will advise you either you stop the instance or you terminate the instance or put something on the instance, basically. So those are the major differences between the four of them. All right, so let's go to our attendance now. I'm so sorry that Mr. Idiri, we are so sorry. Forgive us. So I think we can take our attendance now. And once we come back, we can go to the demo. Okay, so please let's fill our attendance. Flyme, oh sorry, I'm just saying this. She said I should come again. Ah, Olushola said I'm too fast. Anyway, okay. Flyme and Olushola, just let me know where you want me to go over again, and then we'll touch on that as we're taking the attendance. I think we have 5 minutes for the attendance, right? So by 8:14, if I'm correct, by 8:14. So Folayemi and Olushola must say, can let me know which place you want me to go over again. So can really go over it before we come back from our break. Okay, 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Two more minutes. 2 more minutes. Okay, the summary. Okay, I'll go over it again for Naomi. Okay, okay. Okay, so it's 15. So can you all hear me? Okay. All right. Okay, you've gotten what I mean, right? Thank you for letting me. So can we go first? Demo, is everyone back? Okay. All right. So let's get into it. I'm going to have to stop sharing this particular slide and then share my browser screen. So please give me a minute to stop sharing. Okay. Okay, let me know when you can see my screen. And I know that it's going to be tiny, so let me increase it. Increased now. Right, can we wait, okay. Can we also see my screen now? No. Okay. Let me reshare again. So I'm resharing again. Mm, okay, so we're good to go now, Abby. Good to go, good to go, good to go. All right, so is this the screen size okay? I've increased it to I think 150. I think that's the maximum I can go. Okay. All right. So okay. So let's move. Let's dive in. So again, I'm sure we should be familiar with this console by now, right? So you can either search. You see it here because I'd used Cloudtrail this evening, so that you find it here. I'm sorry. I've forgotten my password to log into my incubator, so I'm using my office um, sign in, right? And I can't change the password just yet. So I need to use the roots user to change my password basically. All right, so let's manage my office one for today. So I can search from here and do Cloudtrail. Okay, so just click on Cloudtrail. Okay, okay. All right, so this is what the AWS Cloudtrail interface looks like, right? This is the Cloudtrail console. Once you click on this right hand side, if it is not automatically open now because my screen is zoomed, so you can always come here and click here. So on this dashboard you see trails, you see lake. I didn't go deep into the cloud trail lake, but I mentioned that it's what you can use to, for larger amount of data you can create a cloud trail lake, right? That way you're able to query it with SQL and all of those things. So you see insights, you see event history. So let's look at event history. Remember, I said event history is the one that shows you 90 days, right, of events, right, of what has been happening. So, so far, right, these are the things that it has captured today, right? Today, I've sent a message, right? It's going to tell you the event name, the event time, the username, the source of the event, right? So let's look for something that is interesting. So all this one that doesn't have event username are probably things that AWS themselves started right on their hand. So it's not have a username basically. All right, so let's look at this. September 18th, right? I deleted a bucket, right? Which service was that? Under what service? S3. The service is under S3, right? So this is sorry. This is the resource name, right? the resource name was DMS something 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 like this, right? So you can always also click on it. When you click on it, it would expand it, right? So what did I do? The event name is what I did, right? I deleted a bucket. This is the event ID. So every event has an event ID that is automatically generated, right? This is the time of the event to tell you the exact time, to tell you the time zone, right? To tell you the time zone that you are using when you deleted it. So I was UTC plus one as at 9:13:33 a.m. I deleted this bucket. Because this is right, and to tell you the access key, the the source of the event is S3 bucket, right? To generate a request ID for you, this is my IP address, right? So this is the IP address of where the request came from, right? This is the IP address of where the request came from. The region in which the resource was sitting, US East one, which is not Virginia. You can also view event record, right? So these are all the everything, the name of the resources that I deleted, right? This is it. All right. So you can see how detailed it is. This is how your logs are. But for event history, right, you can see that you're seeing it here directly on the Cloudtrail console. You don't have to go to the S3 bucket that you're logging, whatever, right? So this is it here. So what is going to happen is that if I keep going, you see that it's going to stop at the 90th day. I cannot see anything beyond the 90th day. Let's see the last date. I've not really been using this account for so long. So, all right. So, the first time now, good thing you can see somebody created a role on the 2nd of September. What role did what who was the person that created the role? Was my colleague, right? Created the role. The resource was I am role, right? This was the name of the role that he created. So if I click on it as well now, right, it's going to tell me what did the person created an I am role, right? This was the date the person created it. This is his username. This is the username of the person that created, right? So my colleague cannot come and lie and say, oh, it was Ife that created it, right? This is the IP address of where you created it from. So whether maybe the laptop that you used, this was the IP address of where it was created from, right? So there's nothing like ó dà pé ó wá sọ pé. There's no confusion basically, right? So this is your event history. Again, remember that event history will only store the last 90 days of events. The last 90 days of events. That doesn't mean there's only 90 events you have. Oh. So if in one day I did 20 events, my colleague did 30 events, maybe I created EC2 instance, I created S3 bucket, I deleted, I modified. Each of those things I'm doing are events, is logging it. But it's going to say for only 90 days, right? For only 90 days and only for management events. So it will not tell me maybe uh somebody accessed one of the files in my S3 bucket because that's a data event, right? It won't tell me that. So event history will only capture management events. Management events are like you're creating a resources, deleting resources, right? Or modifying resources, right? Those are management events. Those are the things that are captured in event history. Now for trails, let's create a trail, right? It's because of the size of my screen. That's why it's showing like this. If I am to reduce it down, okay, so this is how it will appear normally in your screen, right? But for the sake of we need to see what we're doing well, let us increase it back. Please hope I am not too fast again. No, are we all following? Hope I'm not too fast. Okay, Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Tina. All right. So let's go and create a trail. Right. So when you want to create a trail, of course, you click on create trail. So you can create trail for different things. Let's name our trail liter test trail. Right. So you can see that there's a format to which your name can be. It can be 3 to 128 characters long, right? It will only accept letters, numbers, periods, underscores, and dashes, right? So any other thing, if I put a question mark here now, right, by the time I want to create this trail, it's going to tell me error, right? Because only underscore, dots, and dashes are allowed, basically. So always take note and read things that are underneath. All right, so we're doing this. So where do you want those logs? Remember when you're creating a trail, a trail, right? It has to store the logs in an S3 bucket. So you can create a new S3 bucket or use an existing S3 bucket, right? So let's rename we're creating a new one. We're going to name the S3 bucket. Let's call it test cloud trail log bucket. All right, so this this is the name of our S3 bucket that is going to be saving the logs in, right? Do you want to encrypt the logs? You can enable it. Uh, New AWS KMS, no problem. You can leave all of these settings, right? You can leave all of these. CloudWatch log. So remember I said we can connect it, we can also integrate it with CloudWatch, so you can decide if you want to um, integrate it with CloudWatch here, right? So that you can also use CloudWatch alarms, basically. So let's leave it at like this, and then we'll go to next. Yeah. So my S3 bucket also has uh, a a clause, right? I can't use underscore for naming my S3 bucket. For naming my S3 bucket, I can't use underscore. I can use dash, but I cannot use underscore. Remember, for this one, you can use dash, dots, underscores for naming the trail, but for S3 buckets, you cannot use underscore, right? So, KMS alias. Don't want to enable encryption. I don't want to, since it's just a testing. Please, if you are doing this in a production, you should enable encryption, right? Please enable encryption. So since this is just testing, we're not going to be enabling it because I don't want to be incurring unnecessary costs. So now this is where you choose events, right? Remember I said there are different events. So management events, data events, insight events, network activities. So I didn't mention this before, right? But network activities is what it will just give you a preview of the network activities that are happening in your environment or within that resource, right? Let's say you created a site-to-site VPN and all of those things. It will monitor that. But for today, for example, I'm just going to be using management events so that we can create an EC2 instance and then see what it logs, right? So management event, read, write, right? So let's leave all these ones as it is. So it's telling us to review what we're about to create. The trail name is Liter Test Trail. It is multi-region trail, so which means that we're going to be monitoring more than one region. So whatever region I am in is going to apply to it. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's create a trail. Ah, Lushola says I'm too fast. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, let's see if it has finished creating. Okay, so the trail has been created successfully. So if you come here to trails now, you see that it has created. Before we didn't have any trail here, but now let me reduce this size so that we can see it. So can you see? It has created this that trail. This is what we created, right? This is the name of the S3 bucket that is going to be saving it in. If we go to our S3 bucket, you will see that this bucket has been created there. Let's go and check S3. Let's open it in another tab. All right. So S3 buckets. So these are all the buckets I have currently, but you can see the one that we just created now. This one. This is what we just created here. Test cloud trailing bucket, right? That was the one we just created. Now. Right. So now let's go and create something and see if it is going to send the log to that S3 bucket. Let's create an EC2 instance. For example, okay. EC2 instance, EC2 instance. Okay. Let's quickly launch an instance. Fast. Okay, so launch instance. To also prepare our mind, our next assignment will be to launch an instance. So you can use that to be looking at what I'm doing now. Test EC2, right? So we have to name our instance, select AMI. We're just going to leave everything at the default because we're just testing, right? We're doing without a keep here. Mhm. Now, all of these settings, right? All these settings I'm going to put here, those are the ones that config will be monitoring. To be monitoring all my configurations. As I'm creating the CC2 instance, and it will monitor it to monitor the security group attached to it. What subnet did I put it in? What rules did I attach to it? And all of those things, right? Those are the things that config will be monitoring. But let's just play with this. Let's just create this. So it's creating. It's creating. It's still. All right. So it's initializing. So let's wait for it to finish it initializing. Let's wait for it to finish initializing. Okay, can we still hear me? All right, let's refresh this. Okay, still initializing. No, we have to wait for 2/2 check here. Hope we remember that when we're creating our EC2 instance, wait for wait for it. But let's go and check our trail log and see if it has even put anything there. I expect that it would have. Right, so click on this. Okay. Is this finished? Let's refresh. Still initializing. Okay, so it doesn't have anything yet here. So I'm switching between the bucket and the EC2 instance. Still initializing. Why is this EC2 instance taking long today? By okay, well, it actually does take quite a while before it will initialize, right? Then I also want to test something. Let's go to our Cloudtrail. I think my network is becoming slow. Okay, so it has passed. So our EC2 instance is up and running now. I expect that if we check our event history, you would see this particular event. Why? Because one is a management event, and two, because it's within 90 days, right? So I expect that even if we check event history, we would see it here. So let's um, going to refresh this. Okay, so remember this wasn't here before. So it has created because it's the cloud show that we created is multi-region, right? So it's creating for multi-region. It created a folder by itself because I'm currently in US East 1 region. So it created a folder for US East 1 region, right? It's created a folder for 2024. So all these things will help you to, gauge it. October 10. Today is what, second. So these are the things that we have done today, and this is what the stuff looks like. So you can click on this. Let's start from the first one. All right. Wanted to open this over here. So let's open this. Okay. So it's opening. Yeah. So it's your Cloudtrail log are usually written in JSON format, right? And it can be a lot. But then let's look at this, right? What was the record? Events, the type I am user, principal ID, the resource name, right? This is my account ID, this is the username, right? Creation time, this was the creation time. Did I authenticate it? MFA authenticated? No. So if you have an MFA attached, it will tell you if you are authenticated with MFA to let you know that okay, you're authenticated with MFA, right? So there it is, all the details there. You can see from you, right? It's telling you that to access this. So all these details there. Calls are usually much more granular. It provides more detailed information than just the event history. If we go to event history, I'm sure we should be able to see um, what we've done. These two instances we created today here. Yeah, so now you can see all of the things I did today, right? That's captured it. I created a bucket. I think my network is a bit slow. Okay. All right. So my event was what I created a bucket. This is my name. This is the time I created the bucket. At 8:31. That was when we're creating that trail. Log. Remember, this is the region in which I created it. Right. This is the name of the bucket that I created. This is all right. That event history will give to you. Right. Now, for every event that is also happening within that bucket. For example, when we created the trail, right, and then it's creating folders inside it, it was creating put buckets policy, right? It was creating all of this. Then we created the trail. No, we created the buckets within when we wanted to create the trail, right? So it's showing that I created a trail as well. Let's go to instances. So this was when I created the EC2 instance, right? I created an EC2. When you are creating an EC2 instance, it gives it a name of run instance. The name of the event is usually run instances. So that when you create EC2 instance, what the event name would be run instances, right? So it's saying the so these are the informations of everything because EC2 of course is more detailed. The EA9 that is attached to the EC2 instance, right? The security group that I attached to the EC2 instance, and all of those things. So it's taking note of everything, every single thing. Now that those are the information that are also here, right? But this one is much more regular. Management events, management event, event category management. So, do you most of the times, right, when you're using log, I used to usually query it and generate insight because this is just one click. You can go through each of the event, right? So I always attach a querying service like Athena or your attach it to a CloudWatch log so you can query and fine tune this and filter it basically, right? Okay, all right. So, um, apologies once again. It is highly well. It is really highly well. I don't know what's wrong with our network nowadays. 1 minute, everything is going on fine, and the next minute, you're on your own. Okay. So what I'm going to do because of our time, right? I'm going to record this demo separately, and then we'll upload it to LMS so that everyone can see it without any breaking in transmission. Oh, is that fine? Will that work for everybody? Because we have just 9 minutes to go. So does that work for everybody? Do a okay, all right, peace, thank you. Okay, all right. So since that works, let's just leave this demo. Uh, let's leave the demo for now. Let me stop sharing and let's finish up with our slides in how many minutes? 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So just is there any question so far? For those that did not join on time, there's no problem. When you're having network issues while this we're sharing the slide, right? There's no biggie, right? Just go back and rewatch the video. Tonight is quite straightforward. So so then I'm going to add more to these resources before we upload to LMS so that you can always read up more on it. So is there any questions before we move to we'll just quickly do our knowledge check basically. But any questions first? Okay. All right. So I think is the network still very terrible on our end, or do you want us to take? Can we take our knowledge check? Just I think just 5 questions, or should we just call it a night? Okay, knowledge check. Okay, all right. So let's quickly run through the knowledge check in 7 minutes. All right. So they are very easy questions, very easy. So question one is what is the primary purpose of the AWS Cloudtrail? Please always note that they are different. There's Cloudtrail, there's CloudWatch, there's Config, there's Trusted Advisor. So let's see if we don't mix them up. So what's the primary purpose of the AWS Cloudtrail? A, monitor application performance. B, track user activity and API usage. C, provide security group recommendation. D, manage S3 bucket versions. B. Happy, I'm glad you're answering no, even though your network was bad. Fola, I mean, so you're still seeing my face. Are you sure you're not quite maybe your uh YouTube stopped loading also. So check. Maybe just move it forward to see. All right, so everybody's choosing B. Okay, let's find out. Yeah. Yeah, the correct answer is B. So the Cloudtrail is what monitors and of course records user activity and API usage. So anything you are doing, whatever action you are taking in AWS environments, Cloudtrail is monitoring it. All right, so question two. Which of the following is not captured by AWS Cloudtrail? This is where it becomes tricky. Let's see if pay attention. Which one would AWS Cloudtrail not capture? Right. A. API calls made by AWS services. B. Changes to security group. C. CloudWatch metric data. D. Identity and access management events. I like that there's a confusion. I like that there's a confusion. B C B C. Okay, B C B C B C B B C. All right, so let's see. So actually, right, this answer should actually be two. It should have been choose two, right? So it should be B and C. So, but for those that said B, you're right. For those that said C, you're also right. So Cloudtrail would not monitor changes to your security group, right? Because that's what config does, right? Even though it is going to capture it. Let's say, for example, if I go and change security group setting now, right? If I go and change it, it's going to capture that, oh, I went to change something, right? But it will not necessarily give me a breakdown of the changes I made. Like, okay, this was what it was before, and this is what it is now, right? So it is config that would really give you a detail of the changes you've made in your security group, right? So majorly you can say the answer is really, really C, right? Because in the real sense of it, CloudTrail cannot monitor CloudWatch metrics data, right? So C is the major answer, but B can is right to an extent. It's right to an extent. But if I had said choose two now, right? If you had chosen B and C, I'd have given it to you, right? But if it's only one answer, then please always go for C, right? Because for B, even though CloudShare will not monitor the changes to your security groups, right? If I go and make that changes, if I'm done that changes, it's going to capture that, oh, this user at this also time did this on the security group, but it will not give you a detailed breakdown of, okay, this was what the security group used to be, and this is what it is now. But CloudTrail can never capture CloudWatch metrics data, right? So see. Okay, so next question. Hope that is understood. All right, so we have 2 more minutes. What does AWS config primarily help with? I think I've already given this answer. What does AWS config primarily help with? A, automating application deployments. B, monitoring the configuration of AWS resources. C, tracking user activity and API usage. D, providing pricing alerts. These are very simple questions tonight, though, apart from the trick questions before. V, V, A, automating application deployment. Hmm. KB. All right, so I think we've gotten enough answers. Let's see if we're right. Yes, the answer is B. So, like I said, once you hear config, just think of configuration, right? So, AWS config monitors the configuration of your resources, right? It monitors it, it tracks the changes in your configuration. That is its primary duty. All right, question 4. Which of the following is an AWS trusted advisor check category? Remember, we mentioned that it's going to check, it checks different areas, right? So, which of this is the one that it checks? Which of it is the one that it checks? Note that instance usage, API activity, networking, security. Hmm. Trusted advisor. Trusted advisor. Okay. All right. Should we go and check what our answer is? I'm seeing option S. Oluwakemi. Option S, Bawo. I guess that's a typo. Well, anyhow, right. So D, okay. Almost everybody's going for B. Some people are going for A. Some people are going for D. All right. So the answer to this is actually D. Right. Let's take us back to where we spoke about trusted advisor quickly. Right. So these are the areas, right? These are the categories that trusted advisor would, operate in: cost optimization, performance improvement, security, fault tolerance, service limit, right? Those are the areas in which trusted advisor would operate in. And I remember we also mentioned it here, right? These are his focus areas. These are the categories in which he actually operates, right? Cost optimization, performance, security, and fault tolerance. Nothing concern AWS trusted advisor, right, with your API activities, even though it is seeing it, right? But it is not, it is going to be under, it can fall under any of this category. So something like your API activity, right, will probably fall under your performance efficiency, right? To check maybe uh the utilization of your EC2 is up to date. If it is not optimally used, right, it would recommend a better use for it. So hope that is understood. So security is one of the categories. So that's security, performance, fault tolerance, cost optimization, right? Those are the areas, the categories that trusted advisor will always grade his checks under. The last question, so that we can end this class tonight. But hope you understand the answer, why the answer is D. Hope that was understood. Okay, all right. Thank you. So the last question. Which of the following is not a feature of CloudWatch? This is back to what Mr. Moses taught us on Monday. So which one is not a feature of CloudWatch? Remember, we also did a comparison of all of these services. So one is real-time log monitoring. B is automatic scaling recommendations. C is user activity tracking, performance metrics collection. So which one is not a feature of CloudWatch? Read it well, oh. Be very, very sure. User activity tracking, automatic scaling recommendation, real-time log monitoring, performance metric collection. Read it very, very well. Which one is not? All right, because of our time, the answer is actually C, right? If you look here, the answer is C, which is user activity tracking is not one of the things. CloudWatch would monitor your resources real time, right? Monitor the utilization. So that's real time log monitoring, right? It would if you integrate it with some services to give you recommendations, right? Which is what trusted advisor is going to use to recommend it to you. So trusted advisor will be monitoring CloudWatch to let you know, okay, we should scale. You can use your CloudWatch to scale, right? So it monitors to say you're at 80% whenever you attach your ELB, your auto scaling group, right, to it. If you create an auto scaling group, your CloudWatch is what is going to be attached to it. So it will monitor to say, it is at 80, then it will do what? Recommend for scaling, right? So CloudWatch has that feature. Then, of course, it also performance metrics collection. That's basically the primary work safe. It collects your performance metrics. But the one thing it cannot do is user activity tracking. User activity is CloudWatch cannot come and tell you it was Ifeoluwa that created this device, these resources, or it was Ifeoluwa that created. That is none of his business. His own is for resource performance. That is CloudWatch business, right? So the answer is user activity tracking. CloudWatch cannot track user activity. CloudWatch cannot track user activity. Yes. Gee, you got it. All right, so I think that's all for tonight. I'm sorry to our TAs for taking this much time tonight. So that's all we'll be doing for this week. Hope we understood. Hope I was. If there's any way, anything you don't understand, you can always private chat me, private chat Mr. Moses. Also, please note that this is the last class for this week. I think I missed your question. Diary of a Bored African Chick. I'm so sorry. I think I missed your question. Please, you can just send it to me privately because we need to end this class. It's 9:06 already. Right. So I'm so sorry. Please, you can send me a message on Telegram to ask your questions. Right. So thank you, everyone. Also, please be on the lookout for the next assignment. Please, let's do our assignment. This one is going to be probably practical. You also have quiz to do, so it's getting tougher. And congratulations for seeing the end of week 7, basically, as you go into week 8. You've done very well. All right, good night, everyone. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye. There's no class tomorrow. There will be no class tomorrow. So we've taken what we're supposed to take today and tomorrow together. Today. All right, good night, everyone. Have a beautiful night rest. Bye.